Hey everyone, it's Derek with OPTP. Today in our Feel Good Holiday Gift Series, we're going to be looking at some ways to develop more awareness of our spine and of our pelvis while sitting. A lot of us sit for long periods throughout the day. We lose awareness of our body's position in space, and as a result, we often develop a distorted posture, we'll say. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at some exercises to help us find neutral and then train the muscles that stabilize the spine and pelvis while seated to help us hold and maintain that upright posture. Let's get started. Okay, so the tools of choice today are going to be the Pelvic Rocker Core Trainer and the black axis roller. I'm going to take my pelvic rocker, put it on its base, and set it on the chair here. Now it's important when you're doing these exercises that you have a chair with a pretty firm seat. All right, if you have it, it's too soft, you're going to sink down into it and you're not going to get that feedback and develop that awareness. So right away here, as I'm sitting on the pelvic rocker, I'm able to move in this kind of omnidirectional sense, and I'm really able to feel where my spine and pelvis are relative to the rest of my body. So it's just a great feedback tool. Now, what we're going to do to start with here is I'm sitting on the pelvic rocker is just engage in some anterior and posterior pelvic tilt. So this is going to help me find neutral. As I tilt from one direction into the other, I'm able to really feel that spine flex and extend. So for those of you or for your patients who have a difficult time engaging in a pelvic tilt maneuver, the pelvic rocker is a great way to kind of teach that concept. After I've gone through the anterior and posterior pelvic tilting a few times, I'm going to find neutral, all right? And that's just going to be right in between that anterior and posterior pelvic tilt. That's what we're going to call our neutral for right now. So once I've found neutral here, now the goal is going to be to maintain that neutral spine as I engage in other exercises that are going to help challenge my mobility and my general position as I'm balancing, so to speak, on the pelvic rocker. So this is where I'm going to grab my black axis roller. The first task is going to be to lift the roller overhead with fairly straight or completely straight arms, depending on your mobility, without moving into spinal extension. Now, again, the pelvic rocker is going to make this more challenging, and that's exactly why we're using it in this exercise. So I'm going to take my black axis roller, I'm going to extend my elbows. Now, again, if you're new to this exercise, you're going to want to keep your elbows flexed to start, and all we're going to do is lift overhead. And again, we're trying to keep stable and balanced on the pelvic rocker, and I can feel myself kind of moving in these very subtle ways here as that pelvic rocker is challenging my position. As I lift overhead, I'm making sure I'm staying aware of my position, not letting my body move into an excessive extension, right? That's really important. I'm keeping neutral here as I'm lowering and lifting. And we're going to want to go through this exercise 10 to 15 times as we try to just practice that neutral position. Once I've mastered that, I'm going to change the direction I'm moving the roller in a little bit as I extend it out in front of my body, and I just bring it in towards my trunk. Again, using that pelvic rocker for body awareness and core activation as I'm stabilizing myself to a very large extent here on the product. So the rows that we're gonna do, again, 15 to 20 times on this one as well, making sure that those postural cues are in place, keeping the shoulders down, kind of letting those shoulder blades come together at the back, giving it a nice little squeeze and being aware of the backside of the body working during this exercise. So after we move through some overhead lifts and some rows, we're going to put the black axis roller back down on the floor here. And then we're going to engage in some movements of the lower extremities. This is going to require some leg lifts, which is really going to put us off balance on the pelvic rocker, really increasing the activation throughout the trunk and all the muscles that support and stabilize the spine and pelvis. So hands can just rest down on the legs here, and all we're going to do is start with a simple marching exercise. I say simple, but it's actually very intense on the pelvic rocker. As we're lifting one foot just about an inch or two off the floor, resting it back down, and then lifting the other side. The idea here is to shift the body weight as little as possible from one side to the other as we lift. So we're stabilizing through all those deep stabilizers that are around our spine and pelvis, okay? So marching here, nice and slow and controlled. It's not a fast and ballistic movement at all. We're in fact moving very slow and staying very conscious of our body's position in space. And again, another very important cue here is to remain neutral in the exercise, neutral through your spine and pelvis. The last thing that we're going to do, which is probably going to be the most challenging, is we extend our lower extremities even further away from our center of mass and further out into space, is just a knee extension. So we're going to lift and extend the leg and then bring it back in. Lift, extend the leg, and bring it back in. You're gonna feel, again, that pelvic rocker really challenging you and challenging your position during this exercise, so stay conscious of your spine and pelvis and your posture. But this is another great exercise to kind of train those deep stabilizers and help become more aware of what that neutral posture feels like. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you want to learn more about the Pelvic Rocker Core Trainer, which isn't only great for exercises like we are doing today where you're seated and training for postural awareness, but it's also great for just a ton of floor-based core activation and core strength exercises. Visit optp.com, and there you'll also find our Black Axis Firm foam rollers. Thanks so much again for watching. We'll see you next time.